Today I'm going to try and make a scrap fabric moth. And I've seen sort of fabric moths. I've seen really giant sculptural ones, and I've seen little ones that people make brooches out of, and I just thought it would be a really fun scrap fabric project. So I've kind of going for mid-size, and I have done kind of a template, kind of a pattern, playing about with it a bit because I'm not sure how to construct it. We're just gonna see. So I've got like a body, I've got some bottom wings, and then I've got some wings to go over the top, and I've got some fabrics which I think I'm going to use, and I'm going with quite muted colours because moths, they're kind of the cool insects compared to the butterflies. They're just sort of more muted, not so flashy. So I've got a brown felt which I'm going to use for the body, and also I think to back the wings on to give them a little bit of stiffness. I'm not going to wire the wings, we're just going to sew it together, and it shouldn't be that heavy, but I think it will need backing on something, so we're going to back it on some felt. I've also got some fluffy bits and pieces here, which I want to do like a little part of the body in a really kind of textured fluffy thing. This colour maybe, or the cream one will probably work best with my colours. So we are going to cut round my pieces and see how it goes. Going to need two of the body because I think I'm going to sew them together and then turn it inside out and then stuff it a little bit. But we should just need one of each of those. Hopefully that will still give us enough to back our fabrics onto. I've done it getting bigger at the top. You could do it purely sort of sausage shaped. I think it would work as well. Right, I do want a little bit of detail on the body, so I think I'm just going to do some stitches across. I've got a very sort of neutral pale colour. Just some stripes to give it a little bit of a curve on the top one. You don't have to go do it on the bottom one as well. Then we will sew the pieces together, turn it the right way out, put a little bit of stuffing on it. We won't put the fur on yet because I've left the pieces, I'm going to leave the wings sort of joined together so they're easy to sew onto the body, and then we'll put the fluffy piece on top covering the join of the wings. So this was the bottom piece I cut out, ever so slightly bigger, so I'm going to use this around that bottom off there, and we're going to have fluffiness probably to about here. So we're just going to do some backstitch. Just to add a little bit of texture, a little bit of detail. There we go, finished the little stripy body. Now I'm going to put that underneath this, and we're just going to sew around the edge. I'm going to leave the top bit open so we can stuff it. You don't have to stuff it. You could just make a flat body, that's okay as well. Especially if you are going to do a brooch, you wouldn't want it too stuffed because you want it to lie flat on your clothes. And if you don't have any stuffing, you could use sort of just very small scraps of fabric that you've got left from projects, just use them up that way. We are just going to do a small back stitch all the way around. You could do running stitch, but it risks it coming a bit apart in little places, but a very small neat back stitch is a great sort of joining stitch for when you're turning things inside out. Should have started at the top and gone all the way around. Don't know why I didn't do that. We'll carry on. So I've done stitching all the way around the edge. Now I'm going to try and turn it inside out. So hopefully I'm going to poke it with a blunt instrument. There we go. Nice. Just gonna put in a little bit of stuffing. I'm gonna leave the top open still because I'm not sure how easy it is to put on our fur. And also we need to do some antennae. There's lots of different parts to this, which I think you could probably simplify it. I've sort of tried to simplify it as much as I can, but I wonder if there is ways of doing things that are even simpler. Like you don't have to do antennae. This is looking so cute already. Okay, let's leave it like this for now. So for the antennae, I've got this really thin wire, you can hardly see it, florist wire. Possibly it actually does need to be thicker than this. I've bent it in half, I've given it a little kind of loop at the top. And what we're going to do is we're going to pop some glue on it. And I'm going to wrap it just in floss. Most of my browns are kind of orangey browns, but what I kind of need is a greeny brown, although I don't want to clash with this green too much. I think this one. You could do it in black if you wanted it really bold. This is just a fabric glue, which is, I think it is probably PVA to be honest, but it is marketed as a fabric glue. PVA I think is like Mod Podge. So hopefully we're just going to put a bit of glue on it. Let's twist this a little bit more. And then we're going to wrap it probably just over 1 centimetre or ½ an inch. And we might cut off the bottom, but we might leave some extra length because we want this to sort of go inside here nicely. Okay, this could get messy, but we better do it now so it dries in time. Okay. You could sort of dip it in if you've got the facilities. I'm going to start at the bottom, go up, and then might come back down again as well. So yes, your hands will get gluey and it might feel like it's not really sticking to start with, but I think this should work. I feel like I've done this before, but I can't remember when that would have been. It doesn't matter if the glue gets onto the top of the thread because it will dry clear. Going over the top will be a bit of a problem. Just going to hold it here for a minute, I think. Try and get that to stay so I can use both hands. I think I'm going to leave that to dry. Okay, we have two little antennae drying. They're a little bit bobbly, my hands are very sticky, but I think they're going to look cute, they're going to look kind of natural. So now it's time to clear this away and get on with the wings. Question is, do we want the green pale wings on top and just a bit of fabric peeping out from underneath, or do we want it the other way around? I'm thinking green on top, but then I can do some more detailed stitching that will actually be seen, although this is quite textured. And then just a bit of fun fabric underneath, which probably won't have any detail sewn on it because it's already a patchwork of different patterns. I think that's my initial feeling. You could use two different fabrics, as in two pattern fabrics. That would give you a very sort of bold moth, and the stitching would take a bit of a backseat. So this way I think we're going to do the pale plain fabric on top and some nice stitching as well. So you're going to need one piece with your pattern fabric. It's not going to match, that's okay. So obviously butterflies and moths, they're pretty much symmetrical, their patterns on their wings. It's not going to, but that's okay, I think. Same colours, same sort of mix of patterns. You could get two identical pieces of fabric. You could, instead of using a pattern fabric, you could use two planed pieces of fabric and just sew all the detail on. That would make it a bigger sewing project. So it's kind of a mix of construction, scrap fabric and embroidery, but you could make it a lot more of an embroidery project if you wanted. This is a very odd fabric. It's kind of crepey and it's got a movement to it which might actually be a bit tricky to stitch, and I couldn't really hold the template on it, so I've drawn it out just very sort of sketchily. about the same. So I don't think this is going to fray at all. It's very weird fabric. This one might fray a little bit, but we are going to sew it onto felt, and you can leave sort of an edge of felt showing if you like, or you could over sew around the edge a bit more like a patch, but I think that might look a little bit heavy handed, so we will probably just backstitch it. So I think we made the right choice with just the colour coming out from underneath. We are going to need the felt to sort of lift it a bit. I might trim under there a little bit, but yeah, hopefully the felt will lift it a little bit so it lies a little bit flatter. I might squish the body down, take a little bit of padding out there. Yeah, I think wings, I might take a tiny bit off the top there as well. And then we're going to have our fluffiness at the top. I'm going to use the dark green to sew it onto its backing felt. I might do a tiny little sort of eye pattern in the corners here, and then I might just do some sort of running stitch or some fly stitch. Not sure, we will decide as we go along. This fabric turned out to be a little bit tricky to sew on. What a surprise. So instead of cutting out my felt, I'm going to attach it to the felt and then cut it out afterwards. I just think that would be more stable, and if I'm kind of moving around, it might end up sort of with not enough felt left. So we will do it that way around. This light green turned out to be quite similar to the colour of the fabric, so you can hardly see my stitching. That's just for people who want to get up close to the moth. But I did the darker stitching, which looks quite nice. Not perfectly symmetrical circles, but it's pretty good. And I'm going to use the dark to sew on that one. And then I might use the same thread as we did with our little antennae, which are pretty much dry now, so we'll be able to work with those in a minute. Then it's a matter of sort of constructing it, sewing it all together. So I'm just going to do back stitch onto my backing felt and then cut out the pieces. As I predicted, this was a little bit difficult to stitch to the felt, so I'm glad I had a big piece of felt rather than one I'd already pre-cut. I think it looks okay though, and it's definitely given it the weight that it needs. So I'm just going to cut out now. I'm going to leave a little bit of the felt showing. We'll see what that looks like, and then I'll trim it down further if I want to. This will actually be the back of your project, so I've tried to keep it as neat as possible. I've not sewn an extra bit onto the back. And you can sort of make these moths as neat or as scrappy as you want. I've used raw edge applique, but if you wanted, you could really do a little hem around the edges of your fabric, or do two pieces and turn them inside out as we did with the body, and then you'd probably have to press them flat again. That would be okay. Depends on the final look that you want for your moth. So we're getting there. I mean, leaving a little edge will tie in with his body quite nicely. I think that looks quite nice. So we've just got this last piece to do. Gonna sew it onto the felt in the same way as I just did the other wings, and then we can start putting it together. Oh, and we mustn't forget the little furry bit on top. Right, I have all my pieces. It's now time to assemble them. So I left this open. I've already taken a little bit of stuffing out, so let's see how that now looks. The body to come up a little bit higher, I think. It's looking good, and let's have a look at how much fur we want to put on. I'm just going to cut a little oval shape. That's probably too much, which is good. Too much is better than too little to start off with. Oh, this is going to fray bad. So when I've cut it down to the size I want, I might just use some of the fabric glue around the edge. Sewing it on might be enough. That's not actually too much. It is too much, but not too much, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I don't want it coming down that far. Just want it on the head here, and then we're going to have our antennae. So I think this is going to be the last piece that goes on as we are sewing it shut, so we'll leave that for now. I want the antennae in next, I think, and then we're going to attach the wings. So I'm not sure how much I need to trim off, if any. Just going to fold it up a little bit for now. Stick it there. There, so they are just going to be attached with a couple of stitches. I think we can do that now. Although I'm trying to decide, this is going slightly lower down, whether they're going to get in the way. Okay, yeah, let's get the wings on next. And it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to attach them at the top. They're laying quite nicely on top of each other. I did think I might have to sort of attach them to each other, but I don't think I'm going to have to. So actually all we need is a couple of stitches once we've decided exactly where it's going. A couple of stitches through both wings and the top bit of the body. Okay, so I've pulled it down a little bit. So these are sort of in line with the bottom of these wings. So you will see some of the nice brown fabric as well. We're just going to go inside, go as far down as I can reach. A little bit tricky. There we go. So I've managed to go onto the brown fabric. So this will hopefully keep it in place. And we're just going to overstitch a little bit to make sure that is quite secure. In a loose kind of way. Don't want it too stiff. If you wanted it stiff, or if you were doing a butterfly and you wanted the wings to sort of stand up, then that's when you'd be getting into embroidery stump work and using metal wires to sort of sew around and make the wings really malleable. This, I don't know, I wouldn't really call it a stump work. It's even quite close to soft toy making because it's all sort of padded and sewn. I think that's enough of that. So I'm just going to go over, do a few over stitches and cut it off inside. Now I am thinking of putting this on the wall, like a giant moth has just landed on my wall. So while this is still open, I'm just going to put a little sewn loop on the back as well. So it was a good idea to leave it open until the last minute. Off. Right, next I think finally before the fluff is the antennae. So we're just going to have, how close do we want them? Quite close actually, so I think here inside, just going to stick it in. And I will swap thread in case anyone's having a really good look at what I'm doing, what I've done. We're just going to sew it onto the top piece of felt and then it will be caught up in the stitches that close the top as well. So I'm just going to go in from the bottom. That's a little bit long maybe, push it down a little bit further. Going to go in, just do over stitching, that's all you can do I think in this one, keeping it quite tight because we don't want them to be loose. You might want to bend them a little bit like this, that's going to look cute, but you don't want them being loose. And now, the sewing together of the top, but also the covering with the fluff. Okay, I think I've decided on the shape I wanted, which is sort of a thin narrow bit and then going wider. So we've got a little bit coming onto the body and we've got his head. Now I've chosen just a sort of light neutral off-white, and I'm gonna, as far as possible, hide these stitches. Need it to be secure, so I'm still using 2 strands, but we don't want it really obvious on the fluff. So how to go about this? I think this fluff is getting everywhere. Okay, I'm going to quickly sew this shut, so that job is done, and then I'm going to just try and stitch this onto the top, just going through whichever layers I need to. I might trim that even more. Actually, no, it's okay, it's okay. We'll just do it on top of the wings. And you can tell it kind of comes over the bottom of the fabric, so I'm hoping to be able to just catch the bottom of the fabric and then sort of fluff it out so the stitching doesn't really show. We're going to take it to the edge of the head, and then we might trim this down a little bit. It's molting. It's not good. Once it's secured at the head, then that is the important part sort of thing. Once it's secured at the top, we don't have to do that many stitches going around the rest of it. Right, now I'm gonna go up through the bottom. See, I'm just catching him. Oop. I think I will come down a little bit, but then leave a little bit of a looseness to this. And there we have scrap fabric moth. I think he's pretty cute. And of course, whatever fabric or patterns you use, they'll be different every time. Each one unique. And I'm going to go and try and hang him on a wall now. So I will show you what it looks like hanging as well.